right, thank you for joining us. I'm Steph and this is Shelby, and we're going to show you about bottle feeding baby kittens. First, we're going to address kittens coming into the shelter. So people find these bottle baby kittens laying about outside and they immediately pick them up and they bring them to the shelter. We ask that you don't do that immediately. Unless they look like they're in extreme distress, leave them there and give mom about 2 to 3 hours to come back. Because a lot of times they're out getting food right now and they will come back and nurse their kittens. They do not want to draw attention from predators to where the kittens are that they can't take care of themselves. So they don't always sit with the kittens. So let's say we do have baby kittens that mom did not come back for. The first thing we all want to do is to feed them. But we need to resist that urge because kittens need to be warm to be able to eat and digest the food. Kittens, if they're not properly warmed or warm enough, they are in danger of hypothermia, and it's very dangerous for them to eat and not able to digest the milk. So that's the first thing that we're going to do is when you get kittens, you're going to use a heating disc. So this is a Snuggle Safe heating disc. We use this in other brands. And we heat this in the microwave for about 5 to 7 minutes, and it stays warm for 6 to 8 hours, which keeps them at a consistent warm temperature, which is what kittens need. Now we also, and this brand comes with a cover, because we don't want, just like us, we don't want a hot pack or a cold pack laying directly on our skin. We do not want that for the kittens. So there is a soft barrier between. So you want to make sure that the kittens are warm to the touch, or their temperature is above 95 degrees. So a lot of us can't, we're not a human thermometer, so they need to be warm to the touch. And these guys definitely are. We've had them here in our care, so they are warm and they're ready to go. But you want to make sure you do this before you even start feeding them for their safety. So the first thing you're going to do before you start feeding them and after you warm them up or while you're warming them up is get your supplies ready. So we're going to go over some of the supplies and how to get them ready as well. So kittens cannot drink dairy. So no cow's milk, no soy milk. They need specially formulated milk for kittens. This is going to give them the exact nutrition that they need to help them grow and stay healthy. Well, what we have here today is KMR, kitten milk replacement. There are other brands as well. And you want to keep them on the same brand at all times. So if you start on KMR, you want to keep them on KMR because different brands have a different way they make it up, and it could cause digestive upset for the kittens, which can be deadly for dehydration if they get diarrhea from switching. So we want to keep them on the same formula. So right here we have a powder, and it also sometimes comes in a liquid. So it's really, which do you prefer? So we're going to use powder because that's what we've been feeding these kittens off of powdered KMR. And I know I said we don't want to switch brands of KMR. We also don't want to switch back and forth between wet and dry powder KMR. We want to keep them on the exact same thing. So always keep that in mind. So we have that, and of course we need to feed them. So we have bottles or syringes. So here's a few choices that you can get at any pet website or Amazon. A lot of times when you get bottles, they will not come with a nipple already attached. It might be in the package they come with, or they might be attached like these ones came attached already. So these bottles, the nipples, do not have holes in them, so you have to make them yourself. Now, there are a couple ways you can do it. This one is just a V slice. This one is another slice, different way you can do it. And this one is a small X. And the point is you don't want to lob too much off because it needs to be an even, slow flow when we're feeding the animals. So the best rule of thumb is to test it. How does it come out? Well, this one, and you have to watch out for this, it's actually coming out the side of the bottle. So watch out for that. This one was coming out too fast, but now it's just kind of coming out slowly. So that's good. And this one right here isn't coming out at all. So that's, you would need to make the hole bigger. So what we use here at the shelter, because it takes all the guesswork out, is we use these nipples that you can buy online. These are Miracle nipples, and they already have the hole cut in there, and they're designed to be right the first time. So any bottle that you have or syringe, you can change out these nipples and put the Miracle nipples on the bottles. That's why they're so awesome. So I would recommend that, but if you don't have them available, because they are in short supply, because everybody uses them, just make sure you're cutting these appropriately and checking to make sure that the flow is appropriate for the kitten. The next step is to actually make the KMR if we're going to use powder, which we are today. So the KMR powder comes with a little scoopy, and it's 1 part KMR, 2 parts water. Now the water should be lukewarm, a comfortable temperature. We don't want it cold because we don't want to cool them down. You can put that in here, and then 2 cups water. And this is on the back of the instructions, so you can never forget. Now you see how that's all clumpy together? We're going to make sure that we stir it until all the clumps are gone. Because again, we don't want the clumps to either clog up the nipples, and we don't want them to eat the clumps because that could upset them. So we're just going to whisk it.
If it's really hard to whisk, you can get a little kitchen whisk. I use a metal one at home to really get in there. You do not want to use an immersion blender, as it can make it too frothy and can also make the powder lose nutrients.
That's good to know. I have seen Fosters take some of those, it's like a blender cup that has that ball in it, that metal ball, and they use that to get rid of the lumps too. So really, as long as you're getting rid of the lumps and not using an immersion blender, it's good to go.
And you can make up more than what you need. It's recommended to not use it past a day in the fridge.
So it's going to take you some time to get all the lumps out. Just take your time and do it thoroughly while they're heating on their heating pads. You can assure that they're warm enough. So this is clump free, and we're going to put it in the bottle. Shelby prefers using a bottle. When I bottle feed, I prefer using a syringe. It's just what you're most comfortable with and what you have available. So when you're using a bottle or a syringe, you want to make sure it's one that shows you the ounces or milliliters, so you can easily tell how much the kitten has drank. This one has different markings. And the syringes don't have it by ounces, but they do have it by milliliter. So before we start feeding, every cat age group has a different amount to be fed and how often they need to be fed. Now these kittens are roughly 2 weeks old, going on 3 weeks old, so they're going to get about 2 mLs every 2 to 3 hours or 7 times a day. So now that they're warmed up and we have the food ready, a lot of people, just like babies, get them like this to try to have them on their back to bottle feed them. While that's okay sort of in babies, it is not okay for kittens and puppies. So this will could lead to aspiration and a lot of other issues. So Shelby's going to show you the right way to hold a kitten. So you can do it multiple ways. You can put them flat on something comfortable and have them belly down. So it's hard to see since this baby is so little, but when we get it ready, when we get her ready to feed, she's going to make sure the belly is down, and she's going to be holding on around the head. It's okay if it looks, just be used to this. I know it doesn't seem right, but that's okay because we have to teach it what to do and guide it. So keeping his head still is really important. Also, when she's going to be feeding the kitten, she's going to make sure her finger is on the throat, not pushing down, but just so she can feel that the cat is in fact swallowing the milk. We're going to make sure before we give it to them that the milk is warm enough. So we don't want it too hot and we don't want it too cold. So go ahead and put it on your skin to make sure it's comfortably warm. One of the ways to warm it up is if you're making it right away, you're already using warm water to make it. And as Shelby said before, this can be put in the refrigerator for up to a day if you make a bigger batch. So what do? This mug right here has boiling water in it. And what we would do if we're taking this fresh out of the refrigerator is we're gonna let it sit here, bob in the bowl for about 20 seconds. And this is gonna heat it up. So 20 seconds later, You're going to do the skin test again, just to make sure it's not too hot. All right. So as you see, she's getting her belly down or sitting up. Now we want natural positions that how the animal is going to feed with its mother. She's latched. This is a good set. A lot of times you don't get a latch right away, and we'll talk about that too. And she's just going to make sure that the cat is swallowing with her fingers.
And you'll see the ears moving as well whenever they have a good suction. So the ears are twitching back and forth.
Now sometimes with really young ones, they can eat from the bottle from the side of their mouth because they do not have molars or premolars yet. Once they have those teeth, you don't want them feeding from the side or chewing on it because they could actually, their teeth are very sharp, they could rip up the nipple and then ingest it, which is also not good. Here's Shelby with the other kitten showing you how to bottle feed with a syringe. So a lot of times you are going to have to use your hand to keep the animal down, on whether it's belly down, sitting up, or laying down, because they get very, very excited, but we don't want them to get out of position because the danger of aspirating. We also do not want to, with the syringe or the bottle, push the fluid in the animal forcefully, because that can also lead to aspiration and other things. As you see, this cat has a great latch and it's pulling it out. So these kittens are latching great. They've been in foster care for a few days, so they've got the hang of it. But what do you do when you have a fussy kitten that's just not latching? Well, you're going to stop, first of all, and you're going to try to figure out what the problem is. Is the milk too cold? Is the milk too warm? Is anything coming out of the nipple? Sometimes clumps, you don't see them, and the clumps can get stuck in the nipple. So you're going to try to figure out what the actual problem is. And then once you do, just give it some time. Maybe push a little tiny bit of milk so they know what's coming out of there. And that's why you want to have a bottle that free flows, drips slowly, just like mom, so they know that that's the nipple for them to get food out of.
If you have a kitten that is hard to latch as well, having that hand and you place it on either side of its mouth, that will create a suction in the center of their mouth to be able to hold that bottle. It is very different compared to feeding off of a mom, as this is silicone versus skin. So sometimes they have a harder time latching onto a bottle than they would in the wild or with mom.
Another suggestion is to use a toothbrush. Grooming or stimulate grooming, or this feeling stimulates or simulates the feeling of the mother's belly, or also the mom grooming the kitten. This tells them that they're getting ready to get food. So we highly suggest this as well. And it can take time. If you get frustrated, take a step back and then try again. Now kittens, they need consistent small meals so they can continue to grow, because they are going to grow exponentially in the next few weeks. In the description, we're going to have links to all of our supplies that we use or you could use. And on top of that, we're going to have links to charts for weights and how much they should be eating and how often they should be eating and how much they should be gaining.
So when you see a kitten start rooting around and kneading on the blankets like this one is, they may be still hungry. So if you can see its face, it is fully suckling on the blanket. So I'm going to grab you up. I know. Place you back down. I know. Whereas this one is sleeping peacefully now. Go. So we're gonna latch again. You'll see those little ears moving up and down.
So the feeding charts that we're going to put in the description, that's not an exact. Sometimes the kittens like this one might be a little bit more hungry and may eat a little bit more than the 2 mLs for the size. Now the next time we feed him, he might not eat the whole 2 mLs, and that's okay. It's just a guidance for you to follow.
And it didn't eat too much, but definitely was still hungry. It probably ate another milliliter or so.
It's really important to make sure you feed them continuous short meals because it helps them stay hydrated and get the nutrients that they need and can absorb. So they've eaten, you've been successful, their tummies are full, what's next? Well, young kittens like this cannot go to the bathroom on their own, and that's where some of the grooming also comes in. Mom helps stimulate them to use the restroom. So since mom's not here, we need to do it ourselves. So Shelby's going to demonstrate while she gets this one to use the restroom. She's using, you can use a wet, damp washcloth. We recommend baby wipes, fragrance free, and slowly putting pressure in a circular motion. Eventually they will use the restroom. It's very important because they can't do it themselves, and if they don't do it, and if you are unable to get them to relieve themselves, it can get backed up and it's very dangerous for the animal as well.
Oh, thank you.
Did she pee?
Oh, we're pooping.
We're pooping. That's great. Only with animals can we talk about these kind of things.
And as they're pooping, you're going to keep rubbing until they are done pushing. So we're still pushing. I know. I'm going to need another wipe, I think.
Oh.
Oh, it's such a rough way.
Here you go. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, it does take some time, so also don't get frustrated if it doesn't happen right away.
I know.
They may yell at you slightly as well. That's okay too.
When you are stimulating to go to the bathroom, they can be on their back for that, or you can lay them again flat on their bellies and just lift their little tail up. I find it easier to do it on the back, but same thing here. As they try to crawl away the entire time that you're doing it, they'd like flip over themselves. So I think it's just a little bit easier if I hold them on their back. This one we might just get and pee out of. Okay, and they're not going to poop every time, but they will most likely urinate every time.
So kittens this age and a little bit older, we should be weighing them daily. So they should be gaining at least 10 grams a day. You should be weighing them daily so that way you can tell if they're losing weight or not gaining enough weight, so it can be addressed. Maybe they're not eating well enough, maybe, who knows, maybe they have something else going on, but making sure that they're consistently gaining weight is the key to success. The little ones, you can use a small kitchen scale, a bowl, and a nice little blankie. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the bowl with the blankie on the scale, and then you're going to zero it out. And then now, when we put the kitten in here, it will tell us the weight. And you always want to do this in grams, especially when they're this small. All right. There you go. Good job. Good job. If they're bigger kittens, you can then use an actual baby scale, because when they get bigger than this, it's very hard to keep them contained in a little tiny bowl. After you fed them and after you stimulated them, you're going to use baby wipes or a warm washcloth to clean them up. It's very important to keep the kittens clean from their face and their nose and also the rear end. After this is done, then you want to put them in a nice cozy warm spot for them to do what they do best after eating, is sleeping.